Let's do this. Let's bring in former acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf, who's going to join us as well at this time. Good morning, Chad.
Good morning.
We want to talk to you about what turns out to be perhaps one of the biggest lies of the at least most recent news cycle. What's happened to at least one of our Border Patrol agents and really the agency at large, as both the president, vice president, and the leader of DHS, Alejandro Mayorkas, have placed a massive lie on one individual Border Patrol agent, and then therefore indicted the entire agency over something that simply did not happen. First, we're going to play for you this indictment, Chad, and get your reaction.
Yep.
Of course I take responsibility. I'm president, but it was horrible what to see, as you saw. To see people treated like they did, horses barely running them over, people being strapped, it's outrageous. I promise you those people will pay. They will be, an investigation underway now, and there will be consequences. There will be consequences. It's an embarrassment, but it's beyond an embarrassment. It's dangerous. It's wrong. It sends the wrong message around the world. It sends the wrong message at home. It's simply not who we are.
And it simply didn't happen, Chad. Nobody was strapped. Nobody was whipped. What's your reaction?
Well, it's pretty disgraceful at the end of the day. They have vilified the Border Patrol, these particular officers in general. It should have never happened. The Secretary should have the back of the men and women of the Border Patrol, of his law enforcement officers. Instead, you have not only the President, but you have the Vice President, as well as the Secretary, commenting on actions that never occurred. Right? We have the photographer who took the picture who's come out and said, I didn't see anyone get whipped of any kind. And so, again, it's just this attack upon law enforcement. Instead of addressing the crisis, instead of talking about the crisis that they have created, that they have no solutions for, they want to instead attack law enforcement for doing their job, as far as I can tell, doing it correctly. But at the end of the day, there's an investigation. But when you have the President, the Vice President, and the Secretary talking about how they will pay, we've got to hold them accountable, that is not a fair investigation at the end of the day, and I think we all know where this is going, unfortunately.
You know, Chad, this is not the first time that Joe Biden has racialized things. And remember, he was the one that said, they're going to put y'all back in change. This is all used for political theater. But it's also distracting people. When we saw the bulldozer, you know, it looks like the encampment has been cleared. We know that the majority of those people have gone into the interior of the country. Another thing we know, and you know so well, Chad, is that the people who got across, who are now in Florida or somewhere else in the country, or some of them are in towns in Texas and Arizona, they are going to communicate back to their family members who are either in Haiti or in Chile or Brazil or wherever they were residing before and say, hey, it worked. We got through. So are we going to see more waves because of the way the Biden administration handled this? We're going to see more waves of migrants?
Well, you're absolutely right. We certainly will see more waves, and we already have reports of another caravan of Haitians coming up from central Mexico to the border. Look, at the end of the day, about 2/3 of that population under the bridge in Del Rio, so about 9,000 to 10,000, will remain here in the United States. The Secretary and others talk about putting them in removal proceedings. What the American people need to know is when they say that, that actually means release into the country. Either you deport folks right away under Title 42, or you put them in removal proceedings, which means they claim asylum and then they see a judge in a year from now. So the vast majority of these folks are being released in the interior of the country. And so when the Secretary and others say the border is closed, and yet 9,000 get released into the country, it's a lie. They're not being honest with the American people, and they're doing a disservice. They need to tell the truth, and they need to lay out a plan for how they're going to address this instead of just simply doing that failed catch and release that we've seen doesn't work.
No, you're right. It doesn't work, and they call it something else. They call it removal proceedings, which to any sane American, they say, okay, they're going to be removed, which is exactly what they're not doing, and then they yell about something that never happened. And let's hope, because of places like the Fox News Channel, people are getting the truth and waking up to the lies that are being told by this administration. Chad Wolf, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.